Yeah, g'day Bush Camping Tools here. Well, what I am going to talk about today is cutting up some things, some general things like this big palm brack, which is really useful. This is a bush lemon and simply another tropical fruit, subtropical fruit, and that's an avocado. We're going to use this, the RAOII Expeditions. Some say it's got a really thick blade, and you'd be exactly correct about that. It's a 6mm blade. Anyway, let's have a look up closer. Check it out. Okay, so let's just cut a few things up. So as I said, you know, this is a pretty thickish blade. It's 6mm across there. So how useful is this? Because primarily a knife's function is for cutting, and I'm going to concentrate on the handle comfort in a bit. So bush lemon, pretty tough. Let's have a look at that. All right, so it's a bush lemon. Let's just give this a cut up here. Cuts pretty easily there without too much effort, without making a big, you know, no juice going everywhere. That would be getting the thing mashed up. And these things are really, it's like a wild lemon. Let's just have a go of that. Oh, that's really refreshing. That's great. Anyway, getting a bit distracted. Now for the avocado. Pretty tough skin on this. That's it there, perfectly ripe. Looks fantastic. Let's have put a bit of lemon juice on this. Why not, you know? Why not? This is a bit decadent in the bush. Okay, so of course the avocados were not growing wild, but they are from in the region. Let's have a look at that. That looks pretty good. Oh, delicious. Let's move on. Give this to the cameraman and just eat that myself. It's great. Might even plant that here. That's really good. Right, let's move on. So I want to talk about the knife in general, because in the previous review on this knife, I kind of left it up to that maybe many people had seen the review I did on this about 8 odd years ago, but that may not be the case. So I'm just going to close it up and show you some things where they improved upon this. Was this smooth, let's just have a look at that, this smooth spine here, the handle there. This is really nicely radiused around there, so you can apply a lot of pressure to the back of this, and that is not going to damage the hand whatsoever. There are no sharp edges on here whatsoever. And I may have mentioned that despite this being a really big knife, and it comes with a pouch too, okay, so you got a pouch, a great, really well-made pouch. You could put this in your pocket, and sometimes I have, because I just can't be bothered to put it in the pouch. And there's no sharp end on it here to dig a hole and put a hole in your pocket, because this is a big, heavy folder, although it could have been heavy if this was not aluminium scales on there. But yeah, really comfortable across there. All the, let's just have a look at this here. All these parts here are rounded, so when you've got your hand down here, I can grab that really hard, give that a big, you know, Pangai Noon grip strength squeeze on this thing. And you see my hands, you know, it's not killing my hands if I have to do that. Albeit it was raised recently on the social media that this is not the kind of knife for sub-zero temperatures, and I would agree there, obviously, because it's got a metal hand. So below zero, we're not in any danger of that here in the tropics, but below zero, this is just, with a bare hand, and especially a wet hand, which is even worse, that's going to become part of your hand. So obviously gloves on if you want to use this knife in sub-zero temperatures. We've got really good comfort, as I said, across the top, because that's where you're going to apply pressure, especially if you're pushing down on something. And the blade itself is really thick. Yeah, it's 6mm on the spine up here. It's not 6mm down there. It's essentially, as you can see, it's a drop point style blade. Plenty of good jimping to get your thumb, you know, some thumb action on there for control, or an index finger, whatever. It's easy to grab up here. Big hands, no problems. I've got an 8.5, 9 hand, and you see there's plenty of room here. Earlier on I demonstrated some chopping on it, and I'll show you that in a minute again. You can't chop with a folding knife except something like this, because you've got the weight in the blade to add some momentum. You know, a skinny little blade, you're just wasting your time trying to do that. Now, the question is, are you going to damage the knife by chopping with it? Well, in this case, no, you're not. This is a very rugged, very strong mechanism. All folding knives, the most important thing is with a folding knife, because you're going to be cutting and applying pressure. If you're pressing down on this thing like this, what you don't want is the knife to come like that. Well, there's no danger of that, because as I showed you previously, you see this here, there's a really big thick chunk of metal that's a bit like the back of a lockback, traditional lockback, where you've got that part of the back part of the spine of the handle, if you like, as such, preventing the knife moving any further. So when you close that, it just can't go anywhere else. You know, this is under compression now, this big chunk of steel in here. It's impossible for it to go anywhere. As opposed to the thing accidentally closing on you, well, that's not going to happen either, because you see this. Now, if you see this big gap in here, this is where the lock bar goes into, and you can hear that locking in there. It's quite a thick lock bar. There's no chance of that. And still, if you happen to be afraid of using this particular beast, you can put a pin in here, as I've already illustrated. So let's go have a look at some of the chopping and cutting capabilities of this with this blade and see how it is. You've already seen me cutting up lemons. You know, it hasn't made a, you know, if it was going to make a mess of it, it's going to be squashing it, and juice is going to be going everywhere. It won't cut into it properly. Cut a hard skin avocado with it, didn't make a mess of that either. So clearly it can cut, and of course, being a, that's tasty, being a drop point blade, I would say I might take this out hunting with me to give it a go of that and see how that goes, and do a bit of fishing tip penetration. Now, because the blade is thick, yes, you will be able to, you know, dig into things like that with it too, and it's going to be pretty sturdy like that, and lateral strength very strong. So let's go check it out in amongst here and see what we can do. Came across this is a new shoot of, these will develop into big spikes on here, and here's an older one. This is a brush turkey nest here, and you can see this thing going up into the trees. This is covered in spikes. There it is up there, going up there like that, right up into the canopy up there, covered in spikes. This is another thing. This thing is an invasive plant. This is from South America, this thing. You can actually eat this thing. I'll put the name up in the description. You can eat the leaves off of it. But there it is there, and it propagates. It's a real menace now in Australia. It was a nursery plant. You can propagate it from these rootlets hanging it off here like that. But look at the spikes on this thing here, will you? Just amazing. Don't want to blunder into that. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to check out the chopping power of this knife. I've got the pin in there, okay. So I'll just show you, there's the safety pin in there, and we're going to cut down this thing here. Just taking a few branches out of the way so they're not in my face. And we're going to use this on here. So this is a okay, it's green wood. It's not a super hard wood, but you know, you can't do this with an ordinary folding knife. You're going to damage it. All right, let's have a look at this. No gloves on. So I'm just letting the, actually what I'm going to do is, I've got my watch, and I'm going to take my watch off so I don't damage my watch on this. If you don't want to damage a wristwatch, you're going to, you will damage it by thumping it around like that. Doesn't matter whether it's an eco drive like this or an automatic watch or what have you. Okay, so I'm going to remove that and pass that to my trusty camera assistant, camera operator rather. There you go, camera operator, thank you. I'm going to go back to this, so I'm not wearing my wristwatch anymore, and we're going to hack into this, right? So I'm going to try and let the knife do the job. I don't have any gloves on, and we're going to have just, there's my hand, right? Okay, no injuries, and we're just going to let the knife do the job into this. And I suppose I should put on my safety glasses too, which are really my specs. Just letting the knife do the job, because it's, you better hang on to this thing. And that's it really, you know, that was no problems whatsoever to do that. Let's just get rid of this. Don't want anybody stumbling on that. And yeah, so let's have a look at the mechanism on there. Does a, you know, good over an inch thick chunk of wood. So let's take the pin out and check that out. It smells really good too, camphor. Anybody that's worried about me chopping down living trees, this is on our own property, so and this is a weed species. So first of all, I just took the pin out, just going to go up and down, absolutely not a fraction of a movement, side to side, nothing. And now I'll actuate it to lock it and close it. Look at that, fantastic. And listen, perfect lockup. Now, as I said, you know, it would be pretty stupid to hack down. You can't hack down something like that with a folding knife, not generally, not something like that. And here's my hand. There's my hand, right? No bloodiness on the hand. It was more than comfortable enough to do that. And now what I'll do is I'll chop this a bit more, and we'll use this pole because I'm not going to waste this pole. I don't need the pin in for that. Hold on, I'll just put the knife there. Shouldn't do that. It's a bad thing. I'm just going to put away the pin firstly so I don't lose it. Just to put this pin out of the way. Now I just tuck it in there because I'm not using that part of the sheath at the moment. So we're just going to take these off. It's a good straight stick. In a pinch it could be used as a one-off spear, possibly. But it would not be my choice because it's not super hardwood. Be a small fishing pole maybe. And let's check this out. No problems. Okay, so the other day what we did was, didn't have a machete on me, and if you want to get through the jungle you can use a big stick, and this is just all waste lantana, and what we did was we hacked a pathway up here just with a stick, and you see this is really impenetrable sort of thing. Without being able to hack this down, you can't get into it, and that's all we needed was a big stick. If you lose your machetes or something like that, sometimes if the bush is weak enough you can belt it down with a stick like that. That's all you need in the Aussie bush. And unfortunately, I hate to tell you, this stuff is all over the east coast of Australia, and sometimes growing right up into the trees, yeah, which is a real pain. And just pointed out something absolutely amazing here in the Aussie bush, and I don't know if you guys can see it down here right in front of us. This is a butterfly here. This is perfectly camouflaged. It looks just like a leaf. Let's move in a little closer. I don't want to get bitten by ants on the ground there. So yeah, there's a butterfly. So it looks just like a leaf. Amazing. Perfectly disguised on the forest floor here. See where we are? In the middle of nowhere, of course. But yeah, there you go there. Look at that. Totally amazing. Just looks like the broken end of a leaf. Exactly the same colors as leaves. Digging stick here, and I just want to, first of all, make a bit of a flat base to sort of carve on a bit, chop on, because I don't want to chop into the ground. So I don't have the pin in here. And this is dead set hardwood, Aussie hardwood. I'm on a wedge of this thing, eucalyptus wood. Try doing this with a regular folding knife. No, you're not going to do it, you're going to damage it. Comfortable, no gloves. I'm letting the weight of the blade do the job. Look at that, look at that, can't even put a nail mark in it. Super rock hard eucalyptus. Now we want a wedge on this for a digging stick, because this is what's going to help us dig for some tubers later without, we don't want to stick the knife in the ground. There's no need for that. Get that more of a wedge. It's getting there. Okay, that's good. Let's have a look. That's pretty good. Worked just fine. Dig into the ground. Lots of seeds everywhere here of all sorts of things coming up. Don't know what that is. That's interesting. What is that? Don't know. Never can tell what you might find in the bush here, but this will be absolutely fine. Yep. As a digging stick. So a slight wedge on a hard bit of eucalyptus wood. Alright, let's see any movement in that knife. None whatsoever. Still very sharp. Okay, let's get moving. So this is what I like about this. Is a heavy duty. It is a truly heavy duty folding knife. You know, if you don't want to carry a fixed blade on you for some basic things, obviously, you know, to go through this over here, you really need a machete. I'm not going to hack my way through there with a folding knife. But this, you know, you've got to be careful. This is quite, you know, cuts vines really well. No problems with that. Little vines, all sorts of things. Okay, so there you have it, you know, showed some chopping, more chopping of hardwood, making a digging stick, cutting down that pole, a green bit of wood, no slop whatsoever in there. You know, there's no problems with this. I already knew it anyway because I reviewed many years ago, about 8 odd years ago, the RAO2 and the RAO2 Expeditions. It's essentially the same. It's got a stronger spring in it for sure because you can't, you know, that knife blade is not coming out like that, whereas if I do like that really hard, you see that was really hard, or just like that with the RAO2, my original one, it's going to come out, but this is pretty solid. It's a much thicker spring and I like that, and this is kind of marketed more towards, you know, like a heavy duty bushcrafting folding knife. That's where I would put this, a heavy duty bushcrafting folding knife, and for that you don't need the blade to be coming out like some kind of tactical stuff in military type applications, I guess. It's got just as good a lockup on there. You can cut, you know, all sorts of things with it. It's no problems. And as I said, you know, let's just have a look at the end of this again here. This piece of wood, you know, really super hard. Eucalyptus can't get much harder than that. The Aussie woods are renowned for their, you know, durability and hardness there. Yeah, no problems with that, and no looseness of the mechanism. And you're just not going to do that with a folding knife, not without destroying it. On there, it's got enough weight in the blade to use it to chop, which is great. You know, this piece of wood here, you know, any green trees can be cut down with any knife, but not necessarily with any folding knife. And this would make a good, you know, just have a look at that over there. This would make, or over here, this would make a good, you know, kind of fishing pole, this sort of length of wood here like that, and so that's a useful thing. But as I said, normally you'd need to cut something this diameter. You're going to need a fixed blade to do that, but here's a folding knife. Yes, you can do it without damage to the knife, just using the weight of the blade itself. Alright, thanks for watching Bush Camping Tools here.